Good evening. Welcome to the September 8th meeting of the Select Board. I'm going to start by reading a script. This is the Select Board Chair, Tom Lacusa. I'll be confirming that all members and persons anticipating on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mark Strange.
Here.
Steve Morantz.
Here.
Richard Foster.
Here.
And Mark Gold. Okay. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lynn Simmons.
Here.
Paul Pasterzik.
Here.
Debbie House.
Here.
And our fire chief, John, are you here?
Here.
Okay. Thanks. John Deere. All right, great. All right, so this open meeting of the Long Meadow Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of the emergency in the Commonwealth, due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the Governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Long Meadow Select Board is convening by telephone conference, video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. For resident comment, how to join for resident comment. After announcements of the COVID-19 update and general announcements, I will afford public comment as follows. I will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves, their names and addresses only. I will have a list of all public commentators, and I will call on each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. Please note that this meeting's being recorded and that some of the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to share your computer, screen share. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting materials. longmeadow.org. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I know otherwise. Meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective, clear conduct for our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members and inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And so we will begin with a Update on COVID-19 by Chief Dearborn.
To the select board for giving me the opportunity to speak. Overall, we're doing pretty well in Long Meadow. Currently, we're listed in the low risk category, the gray color on the map the state started providing a few weeks ago. Low risk means that we have less than 5 active cases. And according to public health, as of today, we have 1 active case in the community. So that's great news, but with that, I still encourage everyone to keep up their protective strategies with wearing their masks, social distancing, and such. We're really busy here, both at the fire department, health department, and particularly the schools. We're working on school reopening. That's an everyday work. The private schools have re-engaged. In the Catholic schools, doing full in person. The Catholic school, this is the start of week 3. They're very successful the first 2 weeks of in person without any issues. As far as the public schools, we continue to work with the facilities department. We've conducted some air exchange testing in the schools with encouraging results. We learned a little bit while doing those, and we've been able to make improvements. Facilities has been really full speed ahead on filtration, ionization equipment, and then the air exchanges. Also, the setup of classrooms, cleaning procedures, and also our COVID officers have been working with the schools on interpreting the very complicated guidance that's being provided. One of the challenges we find is you get a guidance on a Monday, it'll change on Wednesday, and then you'll be welcome to a weekend of reading when it changes again on Friday. So that's been one of our biggest challenges. And obviously addressing all the concerns of school staff and parents as we move closer to the staged reopening to the hybrid model. Not only that, we've been working on a few other things. We had our elections last week at a new location at Greenwood Center. From all we could see, it worked pretty well. Feedback's been fairly positive. Certainly welcome any feedback from the board on it. We did note some areas for improvement with signage and perhaps with the November election, a little bit better traffic control, but overall it seemed to go pretty well. We've just started to engage for fall town meeting. Right now, we've answered a lot of the big logistical questions about holding a socially distanced inside meeting, utilizing the high school facility. We're going to start to work out the fine-tuning details, and those will be presented to the board, I believe, 21st, Lynn, if I'm correct. So we're working on that. And then just a lot of the other details that go into this with school, with town reopening, business reopening. Our COVID officer, Andy Fraser's been super busy. We're also in the process of looking at flu clinics, how to do those in a COVID world. And then we're trying to start to look down the road a little bit for a COVID vaccine if that becomes available in the near future. We know that that's going to be a big lift for us. Certainly hoping the state's going to provide a plethora of support for that. That's about all I have for this evening. If there's any questions, I would feel free to ask them.
Okay, Chief, thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Mark Strange,
No questions.
Steve Morantz?
Yeah, I have 2 questions, if I can remember both of them. In terms of the high school, the schools, are you doing an open windows policy as well for airflow? Keeping all the windows open in the schools as much as possible?
So the high school, because it's such a new building, it just standing alone with everything sealed up, it actually exceeds the CDC guidelines for air exchange. So we don't have to. Where it's possible, they can certainly do that. So.
And then when the winter time comes, how is that going to affect air exchange in the
Yeah, so all the testing we did under the best we could duplicate winter conditions with the building sealed up, windows closed. We did identify some areas in a few of the schools where we could enhance air exchange with some select windows open. So, but the baseline testing was all based on winter conditions where the buildings were sealed up. HVACs are running in that configuration.
Okay, great. And then, did I understand you to say that we're expecting the whole fall town meeting inside?
Yeah, so at this point, that's the direction we're planning. We feel it's the lowest risk for obviously weather. October 27th, we're kind of getting to that point for, it could be beautiful out, could be a beautiful fall evening, could be snow on the ground. So we're working towards the inside town meeting right now. Just preliminary, we're looking at using 3 areas of the high school, depending on our attendance, the gym, the cafeteria, and the auditorium. Again, depending on our attendance. We're working on calculating the final numbers for how many we can fit into those areas, but very preliminary. We feel that it should be able to accommodate our standard fall town meeting.
Thank you, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Richard Foster?
Nothing, Tom.
Okay. And Mark Gold? Okay. He had mentioned he probably wouldn't be with us this evening. The only thing I have to say is it was pretty interesting to see how the fire department used smoke to look at the way the airflow was going. It was very creative idea. Chief, do we have to use any supplementary fans or anything to keep the circulation in the buildings accurate? Or,
Yes, I just want to clarify one thing. When we say smoke test, it's a non-toxic,
yeah.
amusement-based smoke. It's a training smoke that we use. It leaves no residue. It's actually same type of smoke they use like in plays and concerts and things like that. So we actually did not on the baseline test. We did identify some areas in the schools where fans would enhance the air exchange in more closed up areas. We did change a few things based on the test too. There was a lot of value to the test, and how we actually operate the HVAC systems. And I'm certainly not an HVAC expert, but we had the right people on site to help us out with that. So they were able to figure that out. We may do some more testing based on some changes that were made over the last couple of weeks about how some of the systems operate, more continuously operating the system, see if we can improve it. But generally, the test came out really good. We were actually surprised by a couple of buildings and how good they were.
Oh, great. Yeah, and a great way to do that. So thanks, Chief. Thanks for your report. And then we will move on to announcements. There's a few announcements. One announcement in regards to the Coalition for Racial Justice, which is seeking members. And the Select Board is seeking members for a community task force to address racial injustice. The coalition is to be made up of 9 Long Meadow residents with demonstrated interest, experience, or expertise in the issues under review, especially Black, Indigenous, people of color, or people from other historically marginalized communities. More information is available on the town website. Interested residents can submit a letter or email to the town manager by September 14th, which is next month. Simmons at longmeadow.org, or mail a letter of interest to the town manager at 20 William Street, Longmeadow, Mass. 01106. And then there was another announcement having to do with the warrant. I don't know.
Yes, I have that. Yep. This is a notice about Fall Town Meeting that's going to be held on October 27th. All citizen petitions and articles from departments and boards are due in the Select Board's office by noon on September 15th. In order for a citizen petition to be guaranteed placement on a special town meeting warrant, 100 names, signatures, addresses of registered town voters are required and must be certified by the town clerk. Forms and instructions to be used for petition articles are available in the Select Board's office and on the town's website. Petition articles will be printed in the warrant verbatim, so citizens are asked to review the petition carefully. The closing of the warrant is scheduled for September 21st, 2020, with the Select Board signing the warrant on October 5th.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Did we ever get the names of those folks that I was looking for, Lynn?
I don't have those names no, I don't. If I can get those names before we close out tonight, I will
Okay,
let you.
okay, so there's a possibility of another announcement later in the meeting. When we had our storm, the power was knocked out in a number of places in town, but on Converse Street, and it did affect people who were in the nursing home. And a member of the town who works for DPW helped to get a generator running so a building didn't have to be evacuated. And so I'd like to recognize those one or two individuals who helped get that generator running for their outstanding work and that extra effort to help folks not have to be evacuated. Okay, so the next thing would be resident comments. There's no other announcements. And Lynn, do we have some folks that you recognize?
I don't have anyone that's identified yet. You can either put your name in the chat or raise your hand. All right, I don't see anyone, Tom.
Okay. Well, our petition for the Eversource hearing doesn't start until 7:30. So why don't we see if we could do the interview. Oh, here's Stephanie Metzis. She's,
It's Stephen.
oh, hi. Oh, Steve Metz, I'm sorry. You want to make a comment?
Well, Stephanie Metz would probably be much better looking than I am. My comments have more to do with the proposed new town charter and its the discussion about the capital planning committee. So I don't know where you want to put that.
Oh, this would be good. Well, you can mention it now.
Okay. I read that over and I think it's pretty good with it. I do have a couple of comments. One of the things they recommend is that the committee be expanded to 7 members. And I think there's 3 problems with that. In the first place, I don't understand why they want to do that because it functions pretty well with 5. Another real problem, though, is that if it goes to 7, we have to have the majority of the committee there to be able to conduct business. And bumping it up to 7 means we have to go from 3 to 4 that have to be present. And that's sometimes difficult to accomplish, especially in these days when people are afraid to go out and that sort of thing. And the other thing I'd like to ask that be included in there is a formal statement that the CPC, one of our jobs is to monitor the progress, the physical progress of the projects that have been approved for this fiscal year. Not, we don't have any fiscal responsibility, but we do have a great interest in making sure that the projects get physically complete. And then we report back to the select board.
Okay, all right. So we'll make note of those, and if we during the discussion, if you overlook them, feel free to send another note in the chat. Okay, thank you. So then, do we have Kay McConigal, who is interested in participating in is
Tom, it's
yes.
Lena Velturo. I
Yes.
don't know, but myself and Richard Connor are both on right now. If you wanted to speak regarding the Coalition for the Holyoke Soldiers Home now, if not, I understand.
Okay. Is Catherine McGonigal on board today right now? Okay, so then that would put you up right in front, Lena. So, we've, hopefully everyone is signing the petition. It's on the agenda for today. And,
Tom, Katie is here.
oh, Katie is here. All right.
Yep. She was just really hard to hear. I don't know if it's your audio, Katie.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Very faintly.
All right. Yeah, I don't think people are gonna be able to hear her. We have a few minutes. Maybe we'll go ahead with just this new business regarding the resolution for support of the Soldiers Home in Holyoke. And so Lena, if you want to start with that. Give her the mic.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Richard Connors is on with us as well. He is a Vietnam veteran. He is a Longmeadow resident. He's also a member of the DAV, and he's actually on the Coalition for the Holyoke Soldiers Home as well as the Longmeadow Veterans Council. As we all know, what happened in Holyoke during COVID was a tragedy. It should never have happened. And really what the coalition the bottom line of what the coalition is looking for is for the state to give the funding to, the federal government is giving the majority of the funding. They're only looking for what the federal government isn't paying, and just to get the standards up to what they need to. They are additionally hoping to get an adult daycare, but right now it's more, I can let Richard speak more to this, but I have helped people get into the Soldiers Home, and it is a vital part of the community in Western Massachusetts for veterans. Many of them just do not have the means to go into a regular nursing facility or someplace like that. And I don't know if you all know, but the Soldiers Home for everything runs right about $1,000 a month. That's all their health care, their meals, their meds, their doctors, everything. And without it, many of our veterans would not have any place to go when they need this kind of care. I'm going to turn it over to Richard Connor now, if that's okay.
Yes, please, Mr. Connor.
Yes, sir. The breakdown that we're looking for, the state is already approved at one point, or the federal government, I'm sorry, was 65%. The state of Mass was going to come up with 35%. However, they choose to put the money in Chelsea rather than this area. And right now, we're looking for the state to give us the 35% that we're going to be needing to redo the Soldiers Home. What we're looking to do is put a new building up there and then redo the current building. It's going to hold about 265 veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And like Lena said, a lot of people up here, I believe it's $930 a month for veterans to live there. Up until this incident happened, of course, not only there, but everywhere, the care was very good there. They kind of lost track when the COVID started, and they got sidetracked. They didn't know what they were doing at first. But I was on a meeting earlier today, and they have one case there, and that's a worker. That's not even a veteran. And they're checking them at least once or twice a week now.
Okay.
So they are looking, they are toying with the daycare, but I think the primary thing is to get better care there. And
Okay.
we're looking for, instead of having 3 and 4 people in a room, we're looking to have one person in a room with their own showers.
With their same bathroom facilities, which just isn't ideal. Additionally, just so you have an idea, before COVID, the wait list for the Holyoke Soldiers Home was anywhere from 3 to 6 months. That's how much of a need there is here. And even with the COVID happening, there's still a wait list for veterans to get into the Soldiers Home in Holyoke.
Okay, thank you for that information. We'll see if the board has any questions. Mark Strange?
Oh, hi. Richard and Lena, thank you for bringing this to us and allowing us to be a very small part of hopefully a solution here. I don't have any questions, but I do support this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, this is Mark Gold. I was wondering if I could ask some questions.
Oh, sure. Yes, Mark, you could jump in now.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't even know where to start with my questions, but because the resolution or the request for the resolution quotes some information, and it seems very old in these old studies of the soldiers' home. Is there anything more recent of information? I mean, you know, I got to look around and say we had more problems in our town at our nursing home than soldiers' home did. Not that I don't support this, but is this the fight we want to fight as a town? And more importantly, you know, is this the most important thing we're doing right now? From my perspective, you know, the resolution says the people of Longmeadow. How do we know how the people of Longmeadow feel? I'd feel much more comfortable if the resolution said the select board or the undersigned members of the select board feel. But from my perspective, the information is insufficient, it's old, and it doesn't allow me to know the information that I'm doing anything other than telling the governor to spend money. And got to tell you, if it came down to spending state funds on redoing our landfill versus this, I'd vote for Longmeadow. So it's not that I don't support it. It's just I don't know enough. I think this was given to us and a lot of other towns in a very, very peripheral way, without any of the background, without any information. When we went to look at capital needs in our schools, we had this huge study done, and we all looked at the study. We're being told, trust us, it's out there. So, you know, my question is there anything more recent than this information that we've got on this one piece of paper?
Mr. Gold, actually, that's part of what we're saying with the coalition. They did do a study in Holyoke about 10 years ago. If Richard wants to correct me if I have my timing off. They did a complete study. All the recommendations that were brought up for the soldiers' home then are the same ones we're asking for now. And what happened was the state decided to put their money in the Chelsea's Veterans Home versus the Holyoke Soldiers' Home. That is why the information, as you say, is older. It's because the study was done and then it was used for the Chelsea Soldiers' Home, even though it was originally for the Holyoke Soldiers' Home.
They are currently doing new figures. We just don't have any to give out yet.
Shouldn't we have the new figures before we're asked to approve some resolution that says the entire town of Longmeadow supports this?
I think they'll take that under consideration. Do we have any questions from Richard Foster?
No, very similar to what Mark was saying. It does stand out that we've got some dated information, 2010, 2012. That would also be my concern. Not so much the project, but is the project holistic enough for us to be embracing it as far as solving the solution that we needed to solve?
Okay. Thank you. Steve Morantz?
Yes, a couple of things. I think the resolution is fine. I do agree that it should say the select board of Longmeadow supports this resolution as opposed to the people of Longmeadow, because they haven't taken a vote. But I think if the board of selectmen says something, that's important. And secondly, I would add to the resolution that the person running the Soldiers' Home should not be a political appointee. I think that was part of the issue this time. There should not be a political appointment who runs this home. And I would definitely add that to the resolution.
That is correct. We're also trying to get veterans organizations involved in everything that's going on up there now.
All right, so, I think that I agree with a lot of things I've heard. I do think it needs to be from the select board. I don't think that they're going to handle not making a political appointment, but I do think that this is a common theme that we hear in Western Mass over and over again, is that the money was spent in Chelsea or somewhere in the east part of the state instead of out here. And so I'm in support of this motion too. Is there anything that Lena or Richard would want to add in terms of making this, could you see us making some changes to this?
Go ahead, Richard, I'm sorry.
Nope. Once we get some current numbers, we'd be glad to give them to you. However, what we're just basically looking for is to say either the selectmen or the people of Longmeadow, are concerned about it. That you would support us.
All right.
Yeah.
Lena, do you have anything to add? Okay, so,
Sorry, okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
okay,
It has been adopted by several communities in Western Mass, not that that makes it okay for Long Meadow. I completely understand saying that you wanted to come from the select board of Long Meadow. But really what it's asking for is just to know that we do support the Soldiers Home in Holyoke and that we understand that there was an issue and that we do want to help with the resolution for it. The only other thing I can say is when I moved to Western Mass was shortly before I was hired from Long Meadow. And one of the things that was made very clear to me was to educate myself on the Holyoke Soldiers Home before my interview. And I had several questions asked of me of that. And all I can tell you as a veteran myself and being in the position I've been in Long Meadow for 3 years, the Holyoke Soldiers Home goes above and beyond as a general rule, as Richard said, the care. They got off track, some horrible things went through, but they are working on it. They're doing much better now, and we just don't want to ever have a chance to have it be repeated again.
okay. So,
Tom, I have one question.
yes, Richard.
Yeah, Lena and Richard, it looks like the last study was in 2013. Have you in your conversations, have you reached out to anybody in consideration of any new requirements that have been brought on by COVID-19? I'm wondering, are we basically covered in this configuration, or is this really dead information considering the new standards?
They have actually looked into COVID, and one of the women, I actually think Anne has reached out to Lynn. There's a robot now that actually goes through and sanitizes facilities. And during the coalition's last meeting, she spoke to that and about what it would take and how many of those robots in the Soldiers Home or any nursing facility or medical facility to keep the area sanitized and up to standards. And when I talked to Ann, Richard can probably speak more to it. My understanding is that it will get reimbursed to a certain degree because of COVID. So it's just a matter of getting it into the grouping. But yes, COVID has been taken into considerations and what the necessities of that would cost.
Yeah, I guess my real point was, if money should come running down the pike in the next year, specifically for COVID modifications to veteran facilities, do you have any assurance that we are ready to go?
Well, I know they're looking at 2 or 3 different ways to keep the COVID as well under hand as they can. They, like Lena was saying, the one that they're thinking of, they also it was up in New Hampshire, the same type of facility with about the same number, and they got 0 COVID problems up there. And that's what they're looking at first. They have a couple of different programs, but this is the one. And the way it is, the state will pick up, or the federal government will pick up 100% of it for the first 5 years. Then the Soldiers Home would have to fund, I believe it's roughly $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
Okay.
The Soldiers Home would have to fund that.
Mr. Connor and Lena,
Yes.
thank you. Well, I think what we're going to need to have to do is just hold this item open and move over to our our scheduled hearing for Eversource. Do we have the folks from Eversource ready to move forward with this?
And Mr. Chair, yes, we do. Joe Mitchell with Eversource Energy, as well as Ayman Afnan, who's an engineer at Eversource Energy.
Building on. Okay, thank you. So do you want to explain the proposed changes that we received information on?
I'll let Ayman take this.
Sure. So we're doing a project within the town of Long Meadow that's really just improve infrastructure, modernize the area, add another circuit for flexibility and capacity purposes. All that's being added is necessary in order to get the circuit from the substation out to the rest of the town.
Okay, pretty straightforward, and we have our diagrams of exactly where the poles are gonna be placed. So I guess I'll open up to the board. It's on the, basically at corner of William Street and Deep Woods. And then William Street and West Chestnut Street, and sort of that little triangle of extension near Benton Drive. So I will first ask, unless there's anything else you want to say, I'll turn over to the board for questions.
Actually, Mr. Chair, before you do, it bears noting that the town engineer, Timothy Keene, and the DPW director, Mario Mazza, have looked at, and we've had a sit-down conversation with them, as well as Ms. Lynn Simmons. And so those two departments are on board. They've looked at it, and it's something that's going to benefit the town.
Right. Okay. So do we have any questions from Mark Strange?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I don't have any questions. I looked at the plans and they seem relatively harmless. And the comments from Tim Keene were pretty straightforward. Nothing, no red flags or anything. So I don't have any concerns or questions.
Okay. Steve Morantz?
Yes, I have a question. What's going on William Street now? That's different from what you guys want to do later.
Right now, there's a set substation, and because of
This is not acceptable transmission from the gentleman. I cannot understand what he's saying.
And yeah, it is. So Iman, your audio is kind of rough, but I'm going to paraphrase. And when I color outside the lines, Iman, you let me know. But what's going on? There's a single feed going up William Street out of our substation. What this will do is essentially put a second feed and create a loop. So that way, one, if one feed does let go because of high use during the summer, a lot of air conditioners, things like that, we have the second one to back it up. But then two, if there ever is an outage, like a tree falls on a wire, instead of a number of homes being without power, we'll have the ability to backfeed through the other side of the circuit, and then it's down to just one or two that are closest to that tree. So it builds one, extra capacity to bring extra current to homes during high use times. But then two, it brings a level of redundancy by closing a loop so we can feed it from either side if there ever is a problem. And Iman, is that close?
No, I apologize for the poor audio.
So what's going on William Street now was, I guess, approved by the board at some prior time, because these are big poles going in. Fairly significant piece of work going on William Street right now. But this obviously must have been approved either by us or by a prior board.
And I see what you're saying. So what had happened is with COVID and with the storm, we came before your town. We had a poll petition in place. We put the work out to bid and awarded to our contractor. And being a little aggressive, he set, I believe, two out of the 4 poles already.
Oh, it's at least 2 out of the 4 poles. There's a lot going on William Street.
And I don't know what the rest of the work is. I'm sorry.
All right. Any questions from Richard Foster?
I'll yield my time to Mr. Gold.
Okay.
I have no questions either. I have no questions.
Mr. Gold, no questions. Okay. And yeah, I have no questions about this. It sounds like a good backup plan. So I guess we probably should have formally voted to open the hearing, which we didn't do. So I don't know if we need to go back and open and close it, or if we can just move on to a vote. I don't know if, our parliamentarian has any comments on this. So I guess we'll just, for formality, I guess we'll, if I could get for a motion to open this hearing on Eversource. The motion.
So moved.
Okay. And is that seconded?
Second.
Thank you. And then roll call vote. Deb Haas, will you?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
I abstain.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes, I don't you have to have a valid reason for an abstention? You can vote present.
Well, do you have a valid reason you want to give for your vote of abstention?
I didn't think I needed a valid reason. Is it somewhere in the bylaws? One has to have a valid reason to abstain? Otherwise, I abstain.
Okay, we'll go with an abstention. So the meeting is open. Is there any other questions regarding this before we close the meeting and look for a motion? Hearing no questions, I guess I will look for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay. And a roll call vote, Deb, to close the meeting.
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay. So now we look for a motion for petition 4888 on William Street Stalls. Anyone want to care to forward a motion to accept this petition? Well, I will forward a motion to accept this petition for these polls for the backup. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on allowing this petition to move forward. Deb, you want to do a roll call?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
I'll abstain again.
There's a bit of chatter on the phone. Someone should probably block their speaker. And then I didn't hear, you called Stephen.
Steve abstained,
Okay.
Richard, I'm sorry, Mark Gold,
No.
no, Richard,
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Okay, well, thank you, and good luck with the project. I hope it goes smoothly and that we have additional resources in the cases of storms. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Good night, Mr. Mitchell. All right. So now, if we can go back to the discussion we started early on the Holyoke Soldiers Home, and so we had, talked about it a little bit, and I don't know if there's any other questions that people have, or if we should call for a motion. And maybe it sounds like we would want an amendment to what was presented to us. But, so
Tom, I just want to ask a general question. It's kind of an interesting one. Uses the language town of Longmeadow. And I just kind of always assumed that as the select board that we were representing the town of Longmeadow. And that assumption may well be false or inaccurate. So I don't know if Lynn or Paul maybe had some experience with that. So if you say town of Longmeadow on an official document, is it, can the select board, resolve to do something on behalf of the town of Longmeadow, or does it have to say the select board?
I am not sure. I don't know about that.
I don't want to chase this around if it's not necessary. That was just my point.
Yeah. Well,
Mark, why wouldn't we just say the undersigned members of the select board of the town of Longmeadow?
I mean, that's totally fine by me. I just, It's fine. It's fine. I just don't know if there's like a protocol or practice in place that says, you know, when the select board enters into some agreement or resolves to do something, whether they're doing so on behalf of the select board or behalf of the town of Long Meadow.
All I
it's a
can
good
tell you is I don't recall us having done this before, but the number of resolutions like this have been almost nil. So I don't recall us ever having done this, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been done.
I agree with you, Mark Gold, that this isn't something that comes up very often. It usually does say the select board, or it's a resolution that we pass that may go to town meeting, so the town residents vote on it. So, yeah, I don't see making that adjustment would be a big problem. To make sure that it says, you know, the Long Meadow Select Board. So, do we have a motion on this item?
I just have one question of Richard and Lena.
Sure.
In terms of, well, I understand that taking the political appointment out of, or putting that into the resolution might be problematic, but I want to ask Richard and Lena if they had thought that someone who actually had experience running a home like this would have made a difference in terms of how this all turned out with the COVID experience. Because from everything I understand, the gentleman running it had no experience running a home like this, and it was purely a political appointment, which I think was part of the problem. Obviously not all the problem, and I want to know what Richard and Linda think about that.
Actually, if it's okay, Miss Ann Haskell has joined us, and her uncle actually was at the Soldiers Home, and he is one of our veterans who passed away, and she probably could answer that for you best. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you all for allowing us to even speak about this today. I really appreciate it. I was just on the East Long Meadow Town Council because they just voted on it tonight as well. That's why I joined your meeting late. I apologize. I just want you to know, like, I have the list in front of me. I know you're talking about the wording on the who's part of this, and everyone on this list. If you go to, I sent Lynn Simmons the list for our coalition page, and on that page it has every town or city in our area that has joined the coalition and signed this resolution. So it does say, like, Town of Granby, Town of Ludlow, Town of Southwick, Granville, Williamsburg, Amherst, Northampton, Chesterfield, Hadley, Cummington, Holyoke, Munson, Northampton. Wilbraham just signed the other day, September 2nd, East Hampton, Plainfield, and East Long Meadow just signed tonight. So, the wording on that, I just wanted to say that first. And then as far as the infection, I can tell you, my uncle was a resident at the Soldiers Home. And I can't even begin to say what a horrible death that he had on April 9th when he got this COVID-19. He and 75 other veterans, at least, these are people that tested positive, and we can actually say they died COVID positive. There were others that died that maybe their tests came out negative. But once that got into that facility, you can have 3 people in one room, 4 people in one room, divided by literally a curtain with not even a walkway of space between each bed. So am I saying that, there wasn't maybe some fault with administration? I am not saying that at all. I'm sure that was part of it, but it was also part of the state. We asked for funding to expand the Soldiers Home way back from Paul Barabani was the superintendent before Bennett Walsh. They asked for funding. The federal government was going to pay 65%, and they asked for the state to do 35%, and it was never approved. They knew when the state came in and they did an inspection on infection control in January of 2020, they said there was an issue with infection control. They knew this in January. And then the deaths started happening in March when COVID-19 was rampant in that place. Those people had no chance of surviving because there was such close quarters. The staff got it. The residents got it. To have 76 of them die, it was the most horrific death that these poor people had. The care at that Soldiers Home is supposed to be care with honor and dignity. I can tell you honestly, my poor Uncle Tony had no chance of that. He served his country in the Navy. I mean, I've talked to so many people, and I'm so upset about this tragedy that unfolded there. I can tell you, the other side of our state, which everybody thinks Boston, everybody in that area, they get all the funding from the state. Chelsea has more funding than Holyoke. You know, here we are over in Western Mass. Nobody supports Western Mass. I'm sorry. We asked for funding. Paul Barabani, they put a whole team of people to show what the need was. You know, way back when he was still.
Tom, with all due respect, this is out of order at this point. This has nothing to do with the motion in front of us, and I don't even know if it's a motion.
Talking about the resolution. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. And we have our own problems at the Jewish nursing home in Longmeadow. And so I understand all of your issues and all of your concerns and all of your problems, and I'm not minimizing them to any extent. Nobody should have suffered from this disease. But this isn't the forum for the presentation that you were making, in my opinion.
Okay, well, I believe that part of the question Ann was answering was, you know, did it have more to do with administration or with the building structure? And I think you answered that question clearly for me, you know, that when you have a room with 4 individuals where beds are just separated by a piece of cloth, and you had several, you know, I don't know how many rooms were set up like that, which, you know, if you were in the military barracks and you had a bed next to yours with a piece of cloth between it, you might say, well, that's kind of nice, there's a cloth. Because in the barracks, they don't even have that. But unfortunately, you know, what we needed in that facility was single rooms and, you know, a whole variety of different things. So I guess I would say is if there's any other questions from members of the select board in regards to this, you can speak up.
I just want to throw one more thing in there, if I could. This is Richard
Yes.
Connor. We're not asking or blaming any one particular person. We're just saying that this soldiers' home is supposed to be a place where these people should go and feel comfortable living their last few years. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I worked at I've been volunteering at the soldiers' home for 9 years, and I basically would have went there in a heartbeat. Would I go there now knowing what the problems are? I have to really think about it and tell my family to think about it first. But we're not putting the blame on any particular person. I mean, we could, but we're not going to. It's just that we have to update the facility, and we're looking for the support from people in different towns to back us on that.
Okay, well, thank you. So on that note, I will look for a motion to accept this resolution in some form. We hear anything?
So moved.
Okay. So,
Second.
and it's seconded by Steve Morantz. So to accept the motion as written. Any other questions before we go for vote? Okay. Deb House, will you please do a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
No.
Richard,
Yes.
Tonight, and good luck with your
Thank
35%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of you. Have a great day. Thank you. Stay healthy, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn Simmons.
Okay.
Bye.
So let's go back. There is one other thing that you know, we have this resolution, but there is a comment. There was something I needed to discuss earlier. Just find it right here. Let me see. This isn't it here either. Just be patient with me. This is disappeared from here. Basically, the other thing I should have made in the announcements was that, we did receive a letter, and and it was, although the person contacted the select board, he did want to make this an anonymous letter. And I just want to remind everyone that the select board does have a policy that when we receive anonymous information, that we don't move it forward, and that's the end of it. So if you want us to discuss issues, you really have to attach your name to it. Okay, and now I guess we can go to our interview with Kate McGonigal for the Cultural Council. Kate, are you still here?
I am still here.
Oh, you
Thank
sound
you.
much better.
Thank you.
So, do you want to introduce yourself, your name and your address?
Sure. I'm Katie McGonigal. I live at 95 Benedict Terrace in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. I am a resident for about 3 years now, and I'm interested in joining the Longmeadow Cultural Council.
Okay. And well, we usually ask people to say what's your interest in the Cultural Council, and do you have any experience with the work they do?
I do, actually. So I am an employee for the town. Actually, I work at Storrs Library. I am the youth services director in that department. And I've had wonderful experiences on kind of the applicant side of the process, helping to bring in performers and activities and events to Storrs Library for children, teens, and their caregivers. And it's been a wonderful experience. And now I'd kind of like to give back and help out on the council itself to help with the process.
Okay, great. Are there any members, any questions from members of the board? You can please speak freely.
I have one question. It's legal. I mean, I think this is great. But as a town employee, can you be a member of a appointed committee? Is that a bylaw issue at all?
Hand that over to Lynn Simmons.
I haven't come across that yet. I haven't, in the bylaws related to boards and committees, I have not seen that language that prohibits employees from being on boards and committees.
Okay.
I don't know if Paul's looking right now.
I'm unaware of anything that would prevent an employee from being on a committee as such. But I will look in the charter and so on and so forth as the meeting goes on.
Okay. I would think that the main conflict would be if their job for the town would have crossover, so if the library had a big crossover with the cultural center, cultural council, but she is, in the children's section, and I can't imagine there's much crossover there, given what I know of the cultural council. Is there any other questions from select board members? All right. So, hearing none, I guess I will just say that Catherine McGonigal, thank you for volunteering. If there's any conflict of interest, we'll let you know, but at this point, it doesn't seem like there's any obvious ones. And we will be making a decision, and we'll get back to you probably for the next meeting or so. All right?
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for volunteering. Bye now.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we can move to select board comments. Do we have any select board comments tonight?
I have a comment which was directly related to what I just asked the young woman about her position. I am the town's representative to the mitigation committee for the casino. It's the Western Mass mitigation for all the surrounding towns of Springfield.
Okay.
And apparently one of the issues is you cannot be an employee of the town and be a member of this committee. And since the select board gets paid, so I called up the gambling commission and they said they're going to get back to me with a legal opinion, which they have not done yet. And I would just assume to resign from this. This is an agenda item for another meeting, but I would just assume resign from this position and have the board do another search and appoint another member of the community to be the town's representative on the mitigation committee.
Okay, that sounds appropriate. Thanks for sharing that. Any other select board comments? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the town manager's report. Moving right along.
Thank you. My report for tonight, September 8th, coronavirus COVID-19 updates are continuously provided on the town website. The election was held last Tuesday, the primary election at Greenwood Center. It worked out well. The flow of the building with the spacing of the precincts was very smooth. Voter turnout was strong with 5,161 voters, which represents about 43.16% of the registered voters in town. There were a handful of complaints from people who were not aware of the location change and had shown up at the community house to vote. So we're planning increased signage and increased notification for the upcoming November 3rd election. In speaking with the town clerk after the election, she said that this was a record turnout for the state primary in her 14 years with the town. Wolf Swamp Fields, we received 11 bid submissions on the request for proposals that went out for the field renovation project. We're currently reviewing the bids and confirming that minimum qualifications have been met. References will be checked and then we will award the bid. The MVP grant for the solar arrays and accompanying battery storage that MVP grant application was not awarded. I found out late last week. I have a meeting with the MVP rep in October to go over our application and figure out why we were not successful, because we did tick all the boxes that they were looking for in applications. Green Communities, the final grant report on the Green Communities grant was submitted. The lights have been inspected and the final grant award disbursement of $38,781.25 was received last week. Filing this final report closes out the grant and makes us eligible for funding in the next competitive grant round, which is likely to be announced in early 2021. Flu clinics, we are in the planning stage for holding flu clinics. Process will be different than in prior years, and one such change is that appointments will likely be needed in advance. As plans are finalized, we will announce the schedule and process. And the Eagle Scout project that had started earlier this spring at Town Hall has been completed. There are a few photos there in my report, but if you go by Town Hall, you'll see the work that was done and it came out great. So we thank that Eagle Scout Mason Merchant for his hard work there. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Any questions on the town manager report? Steve Morantz?
No.
Okay, Mark Gold?
I think Mark had to leave.
No, I had no questions.
Okay, no questions.
Questions?
Richard Foster?
None.
Okay, and I have no questions either. Thank you for your report, Lynn. We will move to old business, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of August 17th, 2020.
So move.
Okay, Deb, did you get that?
No, I didn't. Which one moved?
Either way.
Steve moved, Richard second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Richard second. Okay. Any discussion or any questions? Okay, we'll call for a roll call vote. Deb?
Tom?
Yes.
Mark Strange?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Mark Gold? No.
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Okay. So The next is the policy on overhead wires discussion. We've talked about this before, that, you know, when we look at the main streets in town, that we should move in the direction of having, you know, any electrical wires be moved underground. And we've gotten, you know, information from our town council, who said there could be some complications, but basically is in support of this. You know, Mark Gold, you put this motion together. Do you have anything else you want to say to the board? Okay, like maybe Mark Gold did have to leave. I'll have to check. So is there any questions anyone else has on this issue? Mark Strange?
No, I don't have any questions. I think it's a good idea and a good policy in itself. I did have the same kind of questions that Jesse had, but I don't think that should prevent us from moving forward on it.
Okay, thank you. Steve Morantz?
No, I agree with the policy, but I do think that the town should have fairly open eyes about the fact that possibly this will cost us legally in the old legal fees when someone says, well, this is not, you know, we have to go to court when we are challenged on this policy. But I do agree with the policy, and I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but I think we need to have our eyes open about it.
Okay, thank you. Richard Gold, Mark, Richard Foster.
No, I have no comments about it.
Oh, Mark Gold is here, right? Okay. And then Richard Foster?
Yeah, he also has no comments.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'd look to see if there's a motion to approve this policy on overhead wires.
I'll move this, Mark Gold. I'll move that we approve this policy.
Okay. And a
Second.
By Richard
Second.
Foster. Okay. Any other questions on the motion? Okay, Deb, we'll call for a roll call vote.
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. The next item is the updated liaison assignments, which we had discussed quite a while ago. Let me just see where liaisons. So, you know, I think hopefully everyone knows what their assignments are, and usually these different committees and boards start to meet in September. So this is a good time for folks to reach out and call the chair of the committee. So if you have this sheet that we put together, what the Deb put together, which has the board of the committee, the chair's name, and the phone number for them. There also is emails if you prefer to contact them that way. And I believe we have the major committees filled. The only thing we have open is liaison to the tree committee, the register of voters, the historical commission, historical district commission, and it seems to be on there twice. And so one must be the historical commission. Oh, and the other was historical district, sorry. But other than that, we've managed to fill all the roles. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments in regards to their assignments. Okay, so if we can get calling out people, that'd be great. Okay, the next is the appointment of the Conservation Commission. Mr. Berman, if we have someone who would care to make a motion to appoint Roman Berman to a one-year associate term that expires 6/2021.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Steve Morantz. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Deb will take a roll call vote.
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay, so welcome aboard, Mr. Berman. And we will now move to new business. So we've already discussed the resolution of the Soldiers Home, which passed. And then we have a approval of a project change order, PCO 70 for the DPW. And hopefully you've all gotten to take a look at that. It has to do with the riprap slope, so reinforcing where we have some erosion problems. And Lynn, do we have someone who wants to speak to this issue?
Yes, the chair of the building committee is here tonight to provide you information on this PCO.
You will recall Mary Beth Bergeron, 497 Inverness Lane, chairman of the building committee. I'm sure you'll recall that probably about a year and a half ago, the building committee brought forward another PCO in reference to installing a retaining wall on the south portion of the property to hold back the embankment and to forestall any further erosion. This particular area is east of that area, and it was visible about 10 months ago that there was some slippage in that area of the sand, and the engineers initially thought that it was going to be fine. Fast forward through the spring and summer weather, and we asked them to return there because the top of that slope, frankly, a few more trees came down, and the top of that slope is very close to the property line of the abutter to the south. And they looked at it again and determined that yes, in fact, it did need to have some attention. So this particular PCO is to put in a riprap retaining wall, not retention on that slope. And the total cost is $46,567.48. The building committee met, reviewed the PCO, and felt that it was an appropriate allocation of money that we do have available within the contingency fund to forestall any further erosion of that slope. And is particularly since it is going to further erode if we don't do something, and it is very close to the egress from the actual property itself, and if that slope falls into the egress line, there's going to be a problem at the DPW. So it's an appropriate PCO for this select board to approve.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from members of the board? Mark Strange?
No questions.
Steve Morantz?
No.
Richard Foster?
No.
Mark Gold?
Yeah, Mary Beth, I just have a quick question. Would this have happened with
I don't think it's actually part of the problem of the erosion in town. I think it's more on that south side of the parcel. There continues to be seepage of water out of that embankment. There's no doubt that the site has a very high water table, and clearly contributing to that is the water table to the south of our parcel. I don't really think it has to do with the erosion. I think it has more to do with the water table itself. And it's definitely an issue. It's not like the north. It's not like the north side where there's the dingle there where we had the significant amount of tree fall a year and a half ago. Different situation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and Richard Foster, any questions?
No, I didn't have any, Tom.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any either. I do know that it's a pretty wet area. There are some vernal pools in that area of the town also. So can we get a motion to, approve this project change order PCO 70 for DPW?
So moved.
Okay, and second, do we have second?
Second.
Okay, and so Deb, if you can just do a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Art Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay. Great, it's approved, and good luck, Mary Beth. Thank you for
Thank you,
coming.
Tom.
All right. So next we've had some since the Charter Review Committee put out their findings, we've been slowly trying to knock off putting these changes into the bylaws and the town record and addressing them. And we were making steady progress, and then with COVID-19, we had to take a step back. A lot of those issues or agenda items were on the warrant, and they will be voted on in the fall meeting. But we have been talking about the charter, and so we are going to try to work through all these issues. It was clear from people who are on this committee that they want us to do this, and so we're going to discuss some of them tonight. And the first on the agenda is the Finance Committee, which is section 2 through 10, and it says that there will be a Finance Committee of 7 voters of the town, appointment for the term of 3 years, so arranged that nearly equal number of terms as possible should expire every year. Members of the Finance Committee should be appointed by a committee of 3 consisting of the moderator, the then current chair of the Finance Committee, and the town's finance director. The Finance Committee shall be an advisory committee to the town meeting and shall have those powers and duties given to the Finance Committee under the general laws, except as may otherwise be provided for this charter. The Finance Committee shall have jurisdiction over the reserve fund and conduct long-range fiscal planning and advise on fiscal policy, and shall further perform those duties assigned to it in Article 7 of this charter, assigned as by law and as may be voted by the town meeting. No officer of the town or member of any board or commission or other committee of the town, whether elected or appointed, and no town or school employees shall be members of the Finance Committee. And so this was the revised suggestions for the Finance Committee, and we'll go through the board. I don't know if folks have any questions or comments on this. I guess we could start with Mark Gold. Maybe not. Okay. Richard Foster.
I have no comments, Tom.
Okay. Steve Morantz.
Yes, I actually have 2 comments. One is, I don't know, I think I heard earlier this evening about the number of people on a board, and having been on the school committee that had 5 members and being on a select board that has 5 members, I think 5 is a much better number than 7. Be that as it may, that's my comment on the number of people. But secondly, I want to know what the term, the Finance Committee will have jurisdiction over the reserve fund. What does that mean? Because I assume that money cannot be spent or put into the reserve fund without town meeting approval, but I don't understand the why that's in there and what that means.
I can probably help you out there. There is what's known as a reserve fund that we appropriate into every year. There's a certain statute, I can't recite it off the top of my head. We put in $20,000 at this point in time into that reserve fund. And the finance committee has authority to make transfers out of that account into other funds when the statute refers to extraordinary and unforeseen expenditures come up. So for some reason, if there was something that was unforeseen in a budget, and I'll give you good examples, maybe something in the planning department that only has a $170,000 budget altogether, that we needed, say, another $10,000. We could get that $10,000 from the reserve fund as opposed to having to wait to go to town meeting. The main purpose of that is to avoid going to town meeting on small incidental items that the finance committee can take care of through their own allotment.
And why wouldn't that be under the purview either the town manager or the select board?
Because the statute says it is under the control of the finance committee.
Our statute or the state statute?
State statute.
Okay. Any other questions? Mark Strange?
No question, or I do have one question, not necessarily about the amendments, but is this one of the items that'll be on the fall town meeting warrant?
If we approve it tonight, it could be, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Depending on the length of the meeting. So, we heard from Richard, right?
That's correct. You did, Tom. You want a motion on this, Tom?
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to place a motion that we adopt the recommendations from the Charter Committee for the Finance Committee.
Okay, and the second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for a vote. Deb?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
No.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next would be to talk about the Capital Planning Committee, which is page 21, section 2 through 11. So we get to it's a Capital Planning Committee. There should be a Capital Planning Committee consisting of 7 members, 6 appointed by the Select Board and 1 member of and chosen by the Finance Committee. Appointments are staggered for 3-year terms. To the extent possible, members should have background skills appropriate for capital planning, such as construction, capital finance, and architecture. The purpose of the Capital Planning Committee is to review and monitor the town manager's capital improvement plan and annually report and make recommendations to the Select Board of annual expenditures at the annual town meeting. The Capital Planning Committee shall review capital requests. Capital is defined as pursuant to the Select Board policy. The Capital Planning Committee shall submit to the Select Board a recommendation of capital items to be funded expenditures meet the purpose to which funds were appropriated. Paragraph B is the Capital Planning Committee shall receive from the town manager capital improvement projects and needs of town departments and capital improvement projects and needs recommended by town boards and committees. The Capital Planning Committee shall review these projects and needs and assist the town manager in preparing a 5-year capital improvement plan. And that's how the commission thinks that we should be updating this. And I guess we'll ask if there's any comments or questions. Mark Strange?
Can I interject something here, Tom?
Yeah.
I can make a formal comment.
Steve Metz, yes.
I'm Stephen Metz, 171 Coventry Lane, Chair of the Capital Planning Committee. I've been chair this is my third term as that position. So I do have a little bit of knowledge and qualifications to make these comments. It's been my experience that I have to agree with Mr. Morantz. 5 is much more easy to coordinate than 7 members of the board or committee for 2 reasons. The most important, of course, is attendance. According to the regulations, or some regulation over governs us, we have to have a majority of the appointed members present in order to conduct business. We have had trouble in the past occasionally recruiting all members of the committee, and if we increase it to 7 from 5, that will increase that problem. If we go to 7, that means we have to have 4 members present to satisfy the requirement. And if you don't have somebody an open position, and then in addition an absence, that can be problematic. And it has been a couple of meetings over the last couple of years. And for those reasons, I think that it should remain at 5 since it is now working so well. The other thing I would like to see, if I might suggest, is more explicitly that we are have purview over the capital budget, the capital funds, so that we know basically what the town has available to it for the capital projects. And finally, I would suggest that it would be appropriate to formally assign us the responsibility of monitoring the physical progress of the capital projects. It's been an informal objective and responsibility of our committee to report that periodically to the select board, and it'd be very helpful for us to get more formalized.
Okay, thank you.
This is Dave Martell. I was chair of
Thank
the.
you, Dan. I didn't see you
Charter
on there before. Yes, if you could please comment on what your committee had put this section together, what some of the issues were.
A couple things. Steve, we received his input, and with respect to the Capital Planning Committee, presently, I don't even think it's in the charter as to the number of people who are on the Capital Planning Committee. Maybe historically it's been 5. Our proposed section, the new section 2-11A, does talk about the background skills appropriate for capital planning that we would like to see on the Capital Planning Committee. Those would be construction, capital finance, and architecture. And we really carry no particular brief for having 7 rather than 5. The problem is you get a couple of absences and you want to make sure you have a quorum. And that was part of the reasoning for having 7 rather than 5 in terms of the number.
Okay. And then, I don't know, Paul Pasturzik, as you were listening to Mr. Metz's recommendations regarding the, looking at the capital planning budget, did you have any comments on that?
No, I think it would be good that we put in the monitoring of the progress on the capital appropriations, assign that somewhere within the body here. I do not have a comment on the 5 or the 7. I know from fact that I used to have a finance committee that were 5 members, and it jumped up to 7 with the charter. And we don't have a problem with getting a majority people at any of the finance committee meetings, but that's up to you folks. The one thing that I would add, or maybe subtract, it says at the end of number 1, make recommendations to the select board of annual expenditures at the annual town meeting. I think you'd want to eliminate the word annual in case there is something to go before a special town meeting in the fall. I think we're just kind of constricting ourselves, being specific to the annual town meeting. So I would recommend that you eliminate that word at the end of number 1 in A1.
Okay, great. All right, good. Any other questions or comments? Mark Gold, you're probably not with us anymore.
Yeah, I have no comments or questions.
Okay, great. So, you know, we look at this, we could either get a motion to approve this with those changes. But I don't know if people want to change it from the recommended 7 members to 5. So let's see, and then, you know, in terms of monitoring progress and to, you know, change as Paul suggested, the last paragraph of the first section from town meeting to just, or from annual town meeting to town meeting. So what are people feeling on the board? Do you want to have those corrections made, or you want to just make a motion to accept this with those adjustments?
Yeah, Tom, I never got to make comments.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, or Stephen, I thought I
Is this Rich?
yes, Richard, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I think it should be 5 members personally. And I'm not sure why there was an addition put in that one would be appointed by the finance committee. I don't understand that aspect coming in, because that seems to go against what everybody else is saying, have the institutional knowledge of engineering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden we're throwing a finance committee member into there. So I question the importance of that. I can't support that part.
Let me just, would it be appropriate for me to say something at this point?
Oh, yes, please do.
Yeah, I think, you know, there was some sentiment to combine the capital planning and the finance committee into one committee. And in its wisdom, the review committee decided not to do that. But we thought that it was important that there be input from somebody on the finance committee to the capital planning committee. And that explains that prerequisite, which is attached to just one of the 7 members.
Can I comment too? Just from a practical standpoint, it's nice to have that member of the finance committee there in order that they have an explanation and understanding of the capital program. So it is brought back to the brought back to the finance committee and explained by one of their members, as opposed to somebody else coming in and trying to explain what the capital planning committee is doing. Just as you folks have liaisons, historically, they've always had an appointment as a liaison also.
Okay, am I mistaken then? I thought you said that finance would appoint somebody to this committee. You're saying that it will be an active finance committee member?
The way that it's stated here is one member of and chosen by the finance committee. So I take that has to be a member of the finance committee.
Okay, I'll withdraw my opposition on that then. I'd still stick with my opposition to have the 5 instead of 7.
Okay, any other comments about?
I make one more, Mr. Jusa.
Yes.
I think it would be appropriate for the finance committee to have a liaison, but I don't think it'd be very helpful if he or she would both
capital planning committee.
Get back, back.
Tom,
You're right.
I'd like to make a comment. Back in the day when I was chair of the finance committee did have a member on the capital planning, and exactly what Mr. Krasturzik said. It's very helpful to know what's going on there, and I think it's totally appropriate. And whether that member is a voting member of the capital planning committee or not, I'm not sure I agree with the objection to that. I just think it's important to have that person there, and I would agree with that. That should remain. And if they vote, I don't see. We never saw a problem with that in our finance committee.
Okay, good. Any other comments or questions before we look for a motion? Okay, so we're looking for a motion, and you know, and I just hope part of the motion includes the changes that Paul Pasturzik had mentioned regarding the, you know, that we go to just town meeting, not the annual town meeting, and then the ability to monitor progress on projects that were approved. And the motion can tell us how many people they want to have on.
I would make that a motion with those amendments, and the amendments would be from 7 members to 5 members.
Okay, is that seconded?
So can I ask a question?
Well, it needs to be second, and then we can have discussion.
Okay.
Well, I will second the motion, and then you can ask a question now.
So if we reduce from 7 to 5, if we keep it at 5 members, but one of those 5 members has to be a finance committee member, does that kick off one of the existing members?
Yeah. Well, I know that it sounds, as Steve Morantz had mentioned, that they've had members of the finance committee on there in the past. I don't know if there's anyone on there now who currently is from the finance committee. Paul Pasturzik, would you know that?
You know what? There is not. The finance committee just reorganized mid-August, and they have not gotten around to liaisons or anything like that at this point in time. So I do not believe that, or I do not believe that the selectmen have actually formally appointed one either. So I do not believe there's a formal appointment of a finance committee member to the capital planning committee.
There is.
Okay. That would be a little complication there, because we would need to wait until, you know, in order to meet the requirements in this, you'd have to wait until there was an opening if it's a 5-member board that's already filled. Mark,
And I just want to point out that if we're going to reduce the number from 7 to 5, that first sentence of 2-11A1 says that there'll be 7 members, 6 appointed by the select board and 1 member of and chosen by the finance committee. So I guess that would be 4 appointed by the select board and 1 chosen by the finance, 1 member of the finance committee.
Right. And so then I guess the next question, if we don't have a finance person on there now, I would think that we would just wait until an opening became available.
Say the same thing. This doesn't go into effect. You know, if this goes to a town meeting and it's approved, these changes are subject to a vote at an election. So we're a ways away from having a change.
Great. Good. All right. So we have a motion. Any other questions on the motion? All right. I guess we're ready for a vote on this. Deb House, will you do a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
No. No.
Steve? Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
No.
Richard,
No.
Looks like it doesn't pass at this juncture. so we will have to move on. The next
So
discussion.
let me just ask, is there, from those who voted no, are there conceptual issues with the Finance Committee as articulated in the proposed change? I mean, essentially, the provisions of 2-11A are generally carried over from existing 7-7. There's not a lot of new stuff in there, so.
So Dave, this is Mark Strange. I voted no because I think we should accept it as it's written. I think we should honor your work and the committee's work and accept it as written. The motion was reducing the membership from 7 to 5, which creates a complication with timing on and if the Finance Committee member will be appointed to the committee. That's why I voted no.
Any other comments? In response to Mr. Matthias?
Hey, Tom, this is Mark Gold. I'll just make a quick comment that I was concerned about the entire review of the Capital Planning Committee in general because I thought I had the impression that the intent of at least of our old town manager was to weaken the Capital Planning Committee, and I thought there were some alternatives that we had gone through early on the first time we went through it to what the recommendations were from this Charter Review Committee, and I'd like to see those incorporated in the overall review of it.
Okay. So do you? I don't know. If we, again, that would have been handy to have gotten those issues, to discuss tonight.
Yeah, Tom, these showed up. This showed up on the agenda. They have been communicated. I can go back. It was a year or so ago that we communicated those. We had a whole series of projects of where we went through in each section that the Charter Review Committee talked about. We went through and marked up, and we just hadn't gotten to them yet. But this didn't show up with on the agenda with the opportunity of saying what else was there and what had we previously done on these things. And I think that I recommend and really commend the Charter Review Committee. They did a great job. But the intent was, did we have a particular bent we wanted to put on it, especially when you look at the select board has 2 past chairs of the Capital Planning Committee on it. And I think the answer to that was yes. So I'd like to, I'm not totally rejecting it. I just think there were some other items that we had in the markups that we wanted to include, and those didn't get included here.
And now, do you recall what those items were?
I don't have them with me at this time, no.
Yeah, right. So I guess we're at a point where we can, either someone can make a motion to accept it as is, or we can just table it until we add those additional points that Mark Gold is discussing. So
I'll make a motion. Can I make a motion?
You can make a motion. Yes.
I make a motion to approve the Charter Review Commission's recommended changes to the Capital Planning Committee regulations in the charter, with the exception of deleting the words "the annual" in subparagraph 1. So it reads, "Make recommendations to the Select Board of annual expenditures at town meeting or at a."
Progress on projects that were approved in prior year.
Yeah, that's. Do I need to say it? That's fine. And also adding a provision regarding monitoring projects that have been approved the prior year.
Okay.
Tom, this is Mark. Can I just ask Mark?
Yeah, we're in the middle of this. I'm asking if there's a second on the motion, then we'll have discussion. Is there a second on the motion? Okay, I will second the motion. And now we have discussion. Mark Gold, do you have comments?
Yeah, I would just ask that maybe we can, this isn't coming up until the November, or until the special town meeting at the earliest. I just like to make sure that, Mark Strange wasn't on the board at the time and Steve Morantz wasn't on the board at the time, and just give them a chance to see what the alternatives were that the select board talked about, because those haven't been distributed to this new select board. Well, I'm not saying reject it. I'm just saying let's delay this until we can get those markups distributed, so everybody can see what some alternatives were.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I guess I will call for a vote. Deb House, you want to take roll call? Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes. Yes.
Steve,
No.
Mark Gold,
No.
Richard,
No.
Okay, the motion fails. So we will be revisiting this with the marked up changes. And perhaps, Lynn, you could find those. I know Mark will look for them also in some of our past meeting minutes. Okay, the next item is the Town Building Committee, which is section 2-12, paragraph A. There shall be a permanent town building committee consisting of 7 members appointed by the select board for 3 years. For initial appointments, 3 members will be appointed for 3 years, 2 members appointed for 2 years, 2 members appointed for 1 year. Thereafter, members will serve for 3-year terms. The composition of the committee shall include, to the extent possible, 1 attorney, 1 architect, 1 civil or mechanical or structural engineer, and an individual who's primarily engaged in the construction business. The school committee, select board, and capital planning committee may appoint non-voting liaisons to this committee. Paragraph B, the function and duties of the town building committee shall be to advise the town manager and the select board on the future needs of the town buildings and to review and comment on capital projects related to town buildings, including schools. In addition, the committee shall serve as an advisory design review committee and review new construction and or renovations of town buildings. And I believe there is paragraph C, which says additional responsibilities shall include evaluating the use of buildings, including the current use of space and ways to improve it, monitor large maintenance projects, and advise on progress, periodically reviewing and maintaining the inventory of buildings, advising on the long-term building needs list for the town, and review the work and prior town building committee, the work of prior town building committees. And that is what we have. I don't know, Dave Martell, if you want to speak to the formation.
Yeah, I would just make the point that the Charter Review Committee essentially carried over into the charter the vote of the select board when it first created the town building committee. And the thinking was that it was an important enough committee that it should be carried over into the charter rather than exist merely by a vote of the select board. Basically, it's nothing is changed from what the select board voted when it decided to create the charter or the town building committee. Not sure when that was. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
Tom, may I address the select board?
Mary Beth Bergeron. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary Beth Bergeron, 497 Inverness Lane, current chairman of the building committee, the permanent town building committee. I'd like to make a couple of small revisions, and they're basically housekeeping. But then I'd like to submit something for discussion by the board. Under B, it should read in the last sentence and or renovations of town buildings. That should be plural, not singular. Under C, it should be changed to say ways to improve it, not approve it.
Yes, I thought that would be improved.
Okay. I
Mary
will
Beth,
also comment in reference to the 7 members of the committee. I believe that the building committee meets much more often than some of the other committees meet. We've also had to hold some fairly short notice emergency meetings. I have never had a problem getting a quorum of 4 out of the 7 members. I think the people who serve on the building committee do take it seriously. And I do ask when I send it out to let me know if they can't attend so that I make sure that that night or day I will have a quorum of the members. So, I think that a 7-member board is not really uncomfortable or unruly if the people who are appointed understand the seriousness of what their function is. Let me just also say one of the 2 of the things missing in here are the charge to the building committee is that it's vertical construction and not horizontal. So, for example, we do not oversee any of what the DPW is doing in terms of streets or water and sewer projects or anything of that nature. We have not to date. So if the select board wants to encompass that within the purview of this committee, we need to know that. And then secondarily is at what amount would the building committee get involved? I was told by the prior administration that we would deal with any construction project where the cost would exceed $50,000. That's never been in writing or memorialized anywhere. And I think perhaps that it would be wise if it was, at least as a matter of policy and in terms of what the responsibilities of this building committee are.
I think,
Those are great
Mary Beth, are you finished?
I am, yes. Thank you, Dave.
I think that there was some concern with respect to that dollar amount. There was some concern that since the charter is supposed to be a long-term document, that putting in a dollar amount in the charter might not be advisable. Maybe the committee is working out fine, and in 10 years, $50,000 might not mean a whole lot.
That's a valid point.
So why not have the select have a policy that for purposes of section 2-12 of the charter, the town building committee shall be involved in projects over whatever the number's going to be.
Valid point, Dave. I also want to make a comment in reference to the makeup of the committee. I think it was particularly wise that the people appointed to this committee are hand-chosen to be people who are involved in the construction business. Now, we don't have an architect, we don't have a lawyer on the committee, but we do have people with fairly significant building experience, and I would say good breadth of experience within the industry. So I think that was a wise decision to include that in the requirement for membership on the committee. And I would advise the select board in the future, if we have a vacancy on the committee, to make sure that an appointment is not just made to a random person at large who's just wants to be involved in new projects. It really should be people with knowledge. So, 2 of them are housekeeping. It's just a B. The last word should say buildings. It should be and or renovations of town buildings, plural. And then under C, it says additional responsibilities shall include evaluating the use of buildings, including on current use of space and ways to improve it, not approve it. Improve the space use, not approve the space use.
And where is that?
Under C, the first sentence, second line.
why I stumbled when I was reading it, because I couldn't.
Yes, I saw you stumble, yes.
Approve or include.
The use of buildings including on current use of space and ways to improve it, not approve it. The approval of use of space is the town manager's discretion. Our charge here is to make recommendations to the town manager as to how he or she may improve the use of space.
Okay. And
Okay.
so,
And then the last thing is, I'd like it inserted in here that it be vertical construction and not vertical construction projects and not horizontal.
So
I
when
also
we
think
say that-
I think also the last clause should be dropped. At this point, the committee's been active for 3 years, and at the time that this was drawn up, we had 2 prior committees that dealt with the 2 large municipal projects, specifically the adult center and the DPW projects. Clearly, at this point, we have reviewed those notes that were taken by those 2 committees and have moved forward significantly.
So Mary Beth, if we say in C, review and comment on capital projects related to town buildings, is use of the term building, why isn't that enough to eliminate roads or horizontal construction?
Well, so for example, you could have a water or sewer line entering into the building, which really does not come under our purview. Construction is a fairly broad term.
Okay.
So, eliminating it, to vertical construction, it just makes it very clear as that we're not taking over the work of the DPW in reference to that type of construction
Where would
project.
you put in the vertical? What would be the specific change?
Honestly, I didn't look at that, Dave. I would say just anywhere here that it's.
Okay. Rather than take the time now.
Right.
I gather this is would go onto a draft warrant article that we would get a chance to look at.
yes. But perhaps under paragraph B, where we talk about the function and the duties, we could talk about advise the town manager, advise the town manager on vertical construction and the select board on vertical construction. I mean, future needs of building, future needs for town buildings, and review and comment on capital projects. So maybe we could.
Maybe that's where it should go, and comment on vertical capital projects related to town buildings.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that sounds right. Does that sound right to you, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And so this, the town building committee, I know we've had other building committees in the past that have been very productive and helpful, and those committees sort of laid the foundation for this, especially the folks who worked so hard on the school committee, I know that. And Lynn, I guess as a town manager, it probably is a great deal of help for you, and I don't know if you had any comments on, making this a permanent part of our.
I just have a broader question, actually, and I hope Dave Martell is still here, then maybe can provide some information. What did the Charter Review Committee use to decide what boards and committees made it into the charter and which ones were bylaws? Because there's some that are not in the charter that I feel like rise to the level of needing to be, and then there's others that are that I feel like could be bylaws. And I'm just curious, what was the rationale?
I think we felt that we should stick as much as possible to the present charter. And there were so many committees that are articulated in the bylaws that to carry them all over, or a lot of them over to the charter might not be prudent, because the bylaws can be changed by a vote at a town meeting. if we carried over a bylaw provision into the charter and we wanted to change it, changing it is a very cumbersome process, and we felt it appropriate to minimize the need for charter revisions as much as possible.
Okay.
And Lynn, did you have any comments to help the select board in understanding how this, you know, this committee, how this has been a convenience for you as town manager, or some of the things it helps you with? Or?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been, the group has been a major asset for the two building projects we have going right now. I think that we're going to, you know, develop a new type of relationship once those projects end, and look toward what other renovation projects we're going to have in the future. I'm looking at some of it and thinking, you know, there's some overlap between, or there should be some overlap between the building committee and maybe energy and sustainability as they're talking about renovation projects. I think it's going to be a work in progress moving forward. I could see it, you know, changing again a little bit. Maybe not necessarily needing a charter change to amend it, but I think, you know, what we are seeing right now for the building committee may be different than what we're dealing with in 3 to 5 years' time, but equally as important.
Do you ever see them having a lot of time on their hands? I mean, I know they're quite busy now with 2 projects, but they're probably
No.
always something, huh?
I don't see them not having a list of things to tackle.
Mary Beth, I see you moving your hands.
Well, right now, I mean, we've had one meeting with the DPW, and we're having another meeting this coming Friday over the 2 roofing projects that have been approved at the town meeting, and one is you know, going to start very shortly, and the other will be hopefully done before the winter, and we're having a meeting on that again on Friday. So and that has worked out very well.
Great, and I'm sure it's a great asset to the town manager and the community.
Can I just ask one more question? The only other area in this Article 14 or Article 4, I'm sorry, that I was thinking, you know, I don't know if there was conversation about, was a kind of putting a section in here about a regular meeting schedule, or something just acknowledging that you form these committees and the expectation is that they meet, and or post a regular meeting schedule and then cancel if needed. But I don't know, it seems like that's something that's silent, and we may want to add something about that. And maybe that's in a bylaw.
Wouldn't that be the kind of bylaw or policy statement that the select board would want to have that would apply to all committees? You know, if you're going to create a committee, the expectation would be that the committee meet and do its work, or not go forward.
Yeah, that could be the perfect place for it.
Okay, great. So, any other questions or comments? Then I think we should look for a motion to approve this section of the Charter Review Committee findings on the Town Building Committee. Is there a motion? Okay, pretty quiet out there.
So the motion would be to include this section in a package of things that would be added to the charter.
Right, with some of the revisions that we discussed. So adding the idea about vertical construction, those typo changes, making one plural, the other is to improve, and that would pretty much cover it.
Yeah, again, I would simply make the point that I made it at the beginning, that this section is pretty much word for word from the vote of the select board 5 years ago, or whenever it was, when it decided to create a town building committee. So there's, Mary Beth, help me on this, but I don't think there's anything really new.
Oh, there's not. I mean, aside from inserting the vertical construction, deleting the last phrase and reviewing the work of prior down building committees, a little bit of wordsmithing, housekeeping issues. I don't think there is nothing. This is what we've been working under. It was dated, it's called the Permanent Town Building Committee Charge. And I'm sure you can find that January 9th, 2017.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I personally see the value of maintaining this committee and having become part of the charter. But I guess I'll ask people who see now there isn't a motion, maybe get an idea from the board about what their feelings are about this. So if we could just go through, Mark Strange, any comments about this section?
No, I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of the changes. I'm in favor of the amendments that Mary Ann suggested. I don't have any problems with it.
Okay. Steve Morantz?
I have no comments.
Okay. Richard Foster?
I think he left.
You think he left?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mark Gold?
No, I support the inclusion of this package.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I will forward the motion to include this. Is it seconded by anyone?
Second.
Okay. And Deb House, any other questions or comments? Okay. So Deb House, will you do a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
No.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
and Richard's not here.
Okay. So it approved. All right, good. Now the next item, and thanks Mary Beth and for joining us. to discuss this.
Thank you.
All right. Now the next item is the section 2-13 audit committee, which is in a new location in the charter. And the part that was in there before was there shall be an audit committee consisting of 5 members appointed by the select board for terms of 3 years, so arranged that as nearly an equal number of terms as possible shall expire each year. The audit committee shall review annual financial statements of the town, financial offices, of the town financial offices, review the independent auditor's management recommendations, provide advice and counsel to select board and town manager. The additional section would be the committee serves in an oversight capacity and is not intended to be part of the town's operational or managerial decision-making process. The town's management is responsible for preparing the town's financial statements, and the independent audit firm is responsible for auditing the financial statements. In carrying out its oversight responsibilities, it is not the duty of the committee to plan or conduct audits or to determine that the financial statements and disclosures are complete and accurate and are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and applicable rules and regulations. The committee is entitled to rely upon management and the independent audit firm on matters as to which the committee reasonably believes management and the independent audit firm to be reliable and competent. And so that is the addition, which really talks more about the fact that they would be an oversight responsibility, which, you know, most audit committees are. Dave Martell, did you have any comments on the changes to this section?
Well, I can tell you that the Charter Review Committee spent a lot of time deciding on how to properly define the role of the audit committee, and the change that you're looking at is, you know, so we're talking about section 7-9 would now include the contents of the annual audit, if I heard you correctly, and then 2-13 would discuss the function of the audit committee.
Okay. Is there any other, Paul Sturzik, did you have any comments in regards to the audit committee? Because it
Yes,
related to your department. Yeah.
just very, very quickly, the original charter did not have the finance director's position in it, even though it is crossed out in what is presented at this point in time. Not that that's a big deal, but it's a bigger deal that I'm probably the person who has attended 99% of the audit committee meetings. And I don't know if the select board and the town manager are going to want to fill in and meet with the audit committee on these matters, because the advice is to be given to them as opposed to me as you know, carrying out those, whatever the advice is. So I'm just a little confused on that, that's all.
Okay, so, yeah, Dave, is there a reason that we did strike the finance director's name on this?
What section are you talking about?
At the
original 213, David, first of all, the original 7-9, which is the audit committee in the charter, you would see that it does not mention the finance director at all.
Okay, the finance director was going to be where the audit committee would provide advice and counsel to the select board, town manager, town accountant, and there was talk about including finance director there. And
right. There was, right. Okay. So I didn't know if you were copying the original, first of all, or again, because I had made the recommendation that the finance director's position should be added there, being the one that works, the person who works most directly with them.
But the 2-13 does include finance director, the new 2-13.
Okay, the version we're looking at has it like a line
crossed out.
Town accountant,
that was
finance director and treasurer, which is I didn't read them.
I'm looking at the marked up charter for 2-13, and it included finance director.
Okay, we're looking at page 22 of the October 9th Charter Review Committee final report, and it has it crossed through.
Now, it has it in blue, whereas it has the town accountant and the treasurer crossed out in red.
Okay, maybe it's supposed to be added, but the line there confused me, that's all. So if it's added, that's great, then that's perfect.
Yeah.
So that actually should go to council, to the select board. But that's just an editing thing.
Okay.
But, okay, good.
Hey, Paul Pasturzik, this is Mark Gold. I have a quick question. Paul, what would have Ernie Welker, he made a bunch of comments about these proposals when he was chair of the audit committee. Do you recall what those were?
I don't recall Ernie's proposal, other than the fact that he did not want to combine the audit function with any other committee. I think if Peter Landon were here, I think Peter had a concern about at the end of where the changes are, that's all new language. And I think, I thought Peter had a concern about that because it kind of set the lanes where, you know, the audit committee is supposed to be and where management and the select board are supposed to be. And he liked to be in the gray area.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Mark Strange?
No questions, just kind of a general comment, and that is, you know, I think if any of us kind of did a deeper dive into each of these suggestions and recommendations, every single one of us would have multiple changes. You know, I think my approach to this is the Charter Review Committee members who are very qualified, spent a lot of time, sacrificed a lot of their personal resources to come together and make these recommendations. And I think if the select board makes a habit of kind of micromanaging the process, it may have a chilling effect on volunteers, which are already hard to come by. So having said all of that, I support this change, and I do think we should include the finance director in the change.
Okay, thank you. Steve Morantz?
No comment.
Okay, and Richard Foster doesn't appear to be with us. Mark Gold, any other comments?
None.
Okay, and again, I think that, you know, as a select board member, you know, you want to know that everything is on the up and up. And having an audit committee is such an important part of what I feel I need to do as a select board member, to have this other group of town citizens, you know, auditing what's going on. And I think it's a valuable resource, and I'm glad that we have people who are willing to do that. And most of them have pretty good auditing experience, so we're pretty lucky. So I guess the next thing would be to look for a motion to accept this this section 2-13 on the audit committee. And is there a motion? Now, the only addition would be to make sure that the finance director is included in the last, you know, the sentence that says to provide advice and counsel to the select board, the town manager, and the finance director. Was there any other changes that people were looking to add? I didn't make any notes, so I think that was it. Okay, so is there a motion we can entertain?
I'll forward your motion.
Okay, and then second? All right, I will second the motion. Any further discussion?
So this motion is with the finance director, Ed. We don't need an amendment for that. That's just part of this motion.
Right. I mentioned that we would do the motion provided it included finance director in the end of the first paragraph. So we don't need to amend it. I don't believe so. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we'll call for a vote. Deb, you want to do a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
and Richard.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm glad that's gone through. These are three more things, and each of the future meetings we'll try to knock off the rest of these. Dave Martell, I really appreciate you being here to answer those questions for us, and the folks who are the chair of the committees, Steve Metz and Mary Beth Bergeron. I can't thank you enough for your participation in this late hour. It looks like we've covered our entire agenda, unless I see something we've missed. Anyone else see anything I may have missed? We got everything. So, with that said, I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. There's a-
Second.
And a second. Good. I thought maybe I wasn't gonna get a motion for that either. Deb, will you take a roll call vote?
Tom,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Richard.
Okay, thank you. So, our next meeting will be Monday, September 21st. Hope you can join us. Make sure the town's working properly. Okay, good evening.